Alright, so this is for 8 quadratic inequalities. Basically, it's a lot like the quadratic equations and functions we've been dealing with. It's just now we have shading, right? Anytime you hear an inequality, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to have to shade eventually. There's going to be two parts of this. One is dealing with graphing. The other one deals with just solving and then showing me the solutions in a way. I believe on the assessment it says to make sure you graph the solutions. I'll show you what I mean by that. So right here we have 3 steps: graph the quadratic, test, points, and shade, and then our concluding statement. And first off, we need to figure out, okay, how are we going to graph the quadratic? And we have our steps. Again, first one, you want to label everything. So our A, our B, our C. Our A in this case is 1, our B is -2, and our C is -8. Once we do that, we want to get that axis of symmetry, right? So the axis of symmetry AOS, and that's -b over 2a. Right, so that's -2 over 2 times 1, which is a positive 2 over 2, which is just 1. All right, so our AOS is 1. 2 is find our vertex. Right, we take whatever axis of symmetry, that's our x value. And then we have to go find our y value, so we plug it back in. And we have 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 8. So we have 1 minus 2 minus 8, which is -9, like so. So our vertex is 1, comma, -9. And then our third part for graphing, we make the xy chart. We put our vertex in the middle. We go 2 points below, 2 points above. So we have -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to plug in our value. So we plug in 0. So 0 squared is 0 minus 2 times 0 is 0, and we get -8. Notice again, remember, this 2 is going to be the same thing. So we get 2 squared is 4, minus 4, and then we have -8 again. And then we have -1 squared, which is 1, plus 2 is 3, minus 8 is -5. 3 here. 3 squared is 9, minus 6 is 3. 3 minus 8 is -5. All right, so once we get some points, let's graph them. So we have 1, -9, so that's -7, -8, -9, so 1, -9's here. 0, -8's here, and 2, -8's here. -1, -5, finally we're on the map. And then 3, -5 is right here. All right, now again, make sure with graphing inequalities, we need to check the inequality symbol. Remember, that means dashed line. Right? Anytime you have this or that, right, less than or greater than, it's a dashed line. This right here, this less than or equal to, is a solid line. So that's very important. So we have our quadratic like that, and then we do have to test a point. Again, test 0, 0, the best one to do. So when I test this, put the test right down here. So we have test, and what we're testing is we're saying, all right, is 0, 0 a solution? Am I going to shade inside the quadratic or outside the quadratic? So I'm going to test 0, 0. So I get 0 is greater than -8. Is that true? Yes, it is. So I'm going to shade inside here. All right. That is graphing the quadratic. We really don't need a concluding statement. We'll get to that more when we don't actually have to graph them. All right, so that's kind of that part. Can you graph a quadratic? Can you go through the 3 steps on the axis of symmetry, find the vertex, make the XY chart, graph it with the correct, is it shaded, is it dashed, or is it solid, and then testing to see, okay, where do I shade? Now, the reason why we shade inside again is because this came out to be true. Since this is true, I want to make sure that 0, 0 is shaded. You're either going to shade inside the U or outside of the U, the quadratic. Alright? Again, why is it a dashed line? Because it's just a greater than. Greater than or a less than, it's dashed. If it's a greater than or less than or equal to, then it's solid. Alright? Now, another part that you are going to have any sort of assessment is, you won't have to graph it, but it's going to say solve it and then graph the solutions. Alright? So we don't have to do any graphing. So the directions are, let's see here, solve the inequality, and graph the solutions. Alright? So solving the inequality, right, there's a lot of ways you can do this. There is factoring. There's completing the square. Where there is the quadratic formula. Again, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Right, there's a lot of different options you can do here. I'm going to show you factoring again. So here's one, the factoring. If you like the quadratic formula a lot, you can do the quadratic formula way. You're going to get the same answers. But factoring again, so we have x squared plus 8x plus 15 is less than 0. What two numbers multiply to 15 and add to 8, right? So they multiply to here, and they add to here, right? That would be x plus 3 and x plus 8. I need to solve this actually, so I get x equals negative 3 and x equals negative 8. Again, you're equaling both parts to 0, so you get x plus 8 equals 0, so you get x equals negative 8 and x equals negative 3. This is the solving part, so you will get this in any way that you try. You will get x equals negative 3 and x equals negative 8. And from here, oh, sorry, that's not negative 8. That's a mistake. There we go. This should be 5. There we go. Whew. All right, so we get x equals negative 3 and x equals negative 5. They add to 8, right? 3 and 5 here. All right, so once you get that, now you actually have to graph the solutions on a number line to show me where the solutions are. So what you need to do there, create your number line, put down where the smaller of the two is on the left, the larger of the two is on the right, right? Negative 5 is less than negative 3. All right. And then from here, you have regions. Where are the solutions? Are the solutions on the outsides or are they on the inside? So what you have to do is you have to pick a number for each region. Pick a number for each region. So what is a number that is less than negative 5? You could go with negative 6. What is a number between negative 5 and negative 3? Negative 4. And what is a number that's greater than negative 3? 0. So now when you test each part, you get x, so 0 squared plus 0 times x plus 15 is less than 0. So you get 15 is less than 0. Is that true? No, it's false. You will put a f for when it turns out false. You can try with negative 6. So you get 36 because you take negative 6 squared minus 48 plus 15 is less than 0. So you get, let's see, 36 minus 48 is negative 12. Plus 15 is 3. Is 3 less than 0? No, that is false. And then when you try negative 4, you get 16 minus 32 plus 15. So you get negative 1 is less than 0. Oh, that's true. Perfect. This tells me that the solutions are between where the x where the quadratic crosses the x-axis. So this is another representation of graphing it. So notice it would just be like, this is where it's true, this is where it's false. False, true, false. Sometimes it turns out where this is false and these two are true. That's going to happen about 90% of the time. It's going to be either false, true, false, or true, false, true, where the outsides are both true and the inside's false, or the outsides are both false and this one's true. All right, that's 4.8 for you. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions on Monday.